when he was born.
So what John is talking about, I began with talking about the relationship our sun and our moon have, how that evolved, relationship between our sun and our moon, and because of that relationship, the sun and the moon, their attraction became a romantic one, and pretty soon they started to have children. They were, the moon is actually the Earth's brother. So when the sun and the moon started to have children, and the Earth would go to that house and visit her in-laws and all of his nieces and nephews, while he was there, he would become really lonely, realize that he didn't have anybody in his life. And the sun and the moon recognized that the earth was lonely. And so the sun and the moon decided, that was when they decided to share their children with the earth. And this is why, as a people, we are a matrilineal society, because the earth was the moon's brother. And so when the sun and the moon decided to share their children with the earth, their children were then now getting experiences and learning from their maternal uncle and gaining their matrilineal heritage. And one of the reasons why the story hasn't been told, because when A and B became a reality, the A and B is a patrilineal organization. In other words, they encourage inheriting from our father's side. Our people were ones that inherited from our mother's side. And the only part of that we practice anymore is where our names come from. But used to be a whole lot more was passed on, and not just names were a part of our inheritance from our uncle's side. So that's the reason why, politically, the story of Eagle had to be deleted, because it continued to encourage matrilineal thinking. And that's what the United States and globalization was trying to do, was change us all into patrilineal people. So now we have the eagle when the sun and the moon decided to share their children with the earth, the first of their children they decided to share with the earth was eagle. And when eagle was lowered from the sun, and that's the way our stories are told, is that when a male is ready to be born on earth, we are lowered from the sun. When a female is ready to be born on earth, they are lowered from the moon. And so eagle, of course, was male, so he was lowered from the sun to be born here on earth. And so now here is eagle, and I always get two different pictures going on in my head at the same time. Here's the world house, right here, just like we see in our pictures of what our Nakahidi look like, how they were built. Here's the house, and here's this boy growing up in that house. And right next to that house is a real big tall tree, and it has an eagle's nest in it. And so now, in the way the story is described, is it's describing this eagle that's up in the nest, and it's still the eggs that are in the nest, and it's describing that whole life cycle as the story unfolds. The story simultaneously goes to the house where the eagle is growing up in a certain way when it finally hatches from its egg, and the boy is growing up in a certain way, growing up in the house. The eagle, as he's up in the nest, he's watching as he sees his mom and his dad jump off the nest, and he goes over there. Wow, wow! I want to do that too. I want to do so. His flapping his wings, jumping up and down, trying to strengthen his wings and strengthen his body because he wants to get out there and jump off of his nest just like he sees his mom and dad doing. And meanwhile, now here's Eagle inside the house, and the boy is growing up fast to where the uncle is taking him around inside of the house and showing him and telling him all these stories about the things that he sees inside of the house. And the eagle up in the nest is learning all the things that he needs to learn as he's gaining more and more strength until one day he gets up on the side of the nest and he looks down, and without hesitation he jumps off of the side of the nest and he starts to fly. I'm always imagining, at what point did the story start to change where now we don't have an eagle boy anymore down in that house. We have a young eagle man. And some of the things that Eagle really enjoyed, like this time of the night, on a clear night, waiting for the sun to go down, and is looking up there and just gazing at all the stars, and is asking all the big questions, right? Wow, wow, wow. I wonder how those got up there. Holy, look at all that. And then is looking all around him at nature too, and how did these things come about? Where did these things come from? How did we all get here? Eagles asking all of these big questions until at some point he becomes a young man. And one of the things that he really enjoyed doing is watching the sunset. And he always had this favorite spot where he'd go and stand. And I'm always imagining, a shoreline that's just nothing but rock, a lot of rock. And here's this young man standing on this rock and is watching the sunset and really enjoying it, really enjoying the serenity he was feeling, the calm he was feeling, and his watching as the sun is setting. And pretty soon the sun starts going further below the horizon, and Eagle says, no, not yet. I don't want it to go down yet. Don't go yet. And he starts running towards the sun. And without realizing it, as he ran, he jumped. And without realizing it, now he's not just a boy, but is an eagle actually flying. He doesn't question how that transformation happened. He just flies with it. And he starts continuing to get too close to the sun as he can, but the sun kept on settling faster and faster, and he started to realize, if I fly higher, I'll be able to keep it in sight. So Eagle started flying higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, and he was able to keep the sun in sight. And now the sun is way down here. The earth is way down here on this side of him, and pretty soon he sees something over his left shoulder, and he turns to look, and here comes the moon. And it just goes right by him quickly until it gets right in between the sun and the earth and creates an eclipse. An eclipse, of course, made the earth dark. The earth just disappeared in the darkness because the moon covered up the light coming from the sun. Now that's a prophecy of what was to come, because this is Eagle as a young man yet, And so he sees all of this, all that time before the moon went in between the sun and the earth. All that time he was up there, all these thoughts were going through his mind. Wow, wow, wow. There's so many. And look at there's these clusters, and those must be families. So he started to put together how all those stars came to be and what they were. Instead of constellations, he referred to them as families, and then started to realize, oh, we are a part of a constellation. So we are a part of a family. And that's where this story started to unfold, because he saw how all of the nature, which is the universe up there, and the nature down here, how all of it related, how all of that connected together. This is what he saw as a part of his vision. And it was also, because he was a young man, it put him in a good position to where now, because of that vision that he had, he was prepared to succeed his uncle as the head of the World House. Because of his vision, he succeeded his uncle, and he became the head of the World House. And this vision that he had helped prepare, put all this knowledge together that he shared with everybody, and everybody learned, everybody gained knowledge because of this vision that Eagle had. And so now here's Eagle with and his now become a head of the World House. So now, with that kind of position in the society, that puts him in an even better position now to be married. So now he seeks a wife, and he finds a wife among his in-laws' family, which was the son with who his sister was married to, and he found a woman that was with the son, and she was called Flicker Woman. And so these two become married. Eagle and Flicker Woman become married, and Flicker Woman returns to Earth with Eagle. And a lot of what you see written is where this story begins. Of a lot of us, if we've read any of these stories, read the story about how when Raven went into that World House for the first time, and now this is the first introduction of Raven, right? He goes into that World House realizing, oh, this was his uncle's house. This World House was his uncle's house. And now there's Eagle, who's the head of this house, and has heard these stories from passerbyers of the people living in there. And his mother, because he knew of all these horrible things Eagle was doing, because once he brought his wife to be here on earth with him, he became very jealous. He didn't like anybody talking to his wife. So he built a cage, and he raised her up in that cage, so she was hanging from the rafters in a cage. And that was his way of keeping his wife from talking to anybody. And this was Eagle, right? This was Eagle that was doing all of this. And because of his jealousy. And now here's two to keep all of the rest of the family from the house, which is his mother. I just call his mother Tissitla. which just means moon mother, right? Because his mother was the moon. His father was the sun. So I just called him Kakan Ish, sun father, and moon mother. So they're also a part of this world house and inside of this house. But because of Eagle's jealousy, he didn't want the sun or the moon, who is his mother and father, talking to his wife. So he imprisoned them in boxes, and he put them in the four corners of the house, so that separated them from interacting and communicating with each other. So this was all the things that Eagle was doing because of his jealousy. And of course, in doing that, that's what began the darkness in the world. Because of the things that Eagle was doing that put his family imprisoned in these boxes is what started the darkness in the world. And this was a part of Eagle's legacy. That's why I say I don't want to own that, because it wasn't us that did that. It helped me to realize, because it didn't seem like anybody should be owner to a lot of the stories I grew up hearing about Raven, because it seems like they were intended to help everybody. When you hear them, anybody can relate to that and say, hey, I can use that. Anybody that listens to it can hear that.
Especially the Ganook